So give everything a little bit because we are a little behind. And that's okay. That's totally fine. It's okay to be behind sometimes. It's okay to be a late bloomer. It's okay to be behind in a grade. It's all right. Um, Anyways, give me a second because we're also going live on Podbean right now. So here we go. We are live on Riverside. We're live on Podbean. We're going to try to make a little bit of a seamless experience here. And bear with me because we had an interview have to reschedule. Uh, Unfortunately, we are not going to be able to see Shane Jacob until September 22nd because I'm booked out that far. So, anyways, hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your host Keegan. And this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And today, I wonder, is addiction a disease or is it a choice? Now, I know what you're thinking. Keegan, we've talked about this before. We've had this discussion. Is it a disease or is it a choice? And, well, my opinion is still that it is a disease of choice. So, but the thing is, not everyone has heard that episode, and the podcast has grown a whole bunch, and my delivery style has totally changed. So instead of sitting here and talking like that the whole time, we're going to jump right into it and we're going to see a little bit about addiction and what goes on with it and whether it's a disease or a choice. So, here we go. Now, addiction. It's fundamentally complex and it involves a whole bunch of brain diddly doodads like circuits, neurons, synapses, so on and so forth that all in all make us who we are. Now, what makes that important? All of that gets messed with whenever we introduce any substance or certain processes enough times into our brain and alter it almost forever. But our brains are really, really good at, well, making themselves back to normal. So, anyways, our brain circuits related to addiction can be reward, stress, and self control. So, with reward, we have a natural reward system that is known as the mesolimbic pathway, designed to motivate and have us do repeated behaviors or habits. So, such as eating, socializing, and the good old sex. And then whenever we do those, our brain goes, "Ooh, this was good." So we get something called dopamine, and dopamine is awesome. Everyone loves dopamine. So that is the feel good everything, right? And whenever we're on substances, our brain gets flooded with this stuff for no reason. Whenever really it's meant for those high risk, high reward scenarios. And really it's supposed to be telling us this is good, this is essential for survival. But whenever we're sitting here doing nothing and we're getting that same message like, yeah, that is pretty cool to exist and feel all right, but it gets very old very quick and our bodies know that it is fake, and so they start doing this weird thing and it makes it harder to really step away from the addiction. But anyways, we'll get to that here in a little bit. But we're going to go to some of the addictive substances. Now, of course, we have drugs, and I don't really have to say which ones because it's a whole lot of them. But we also have alcohol, which, yes, if you're going to be specific, alcohol is a drug. So, anyways, we also have nicotine, which, of course, and caffeine. I know you didn't want to hear that one, but guess what? It is. Haha. It's very addictive. And if you don't believe me, well, try not drinking your coffee for a couple days or tea if you're that kind of person. But then if we're looking at something such as process behaviors or addictions, we're sitting there and we're dealing with gambling, gaming, sex, so on and so forth. And those things also hijack the same system that drugs and alcohol do. Now, whenever they have a huge rush of dopamine, our brains sit there and just get flooded and they don't really know what to do with it. So that extra dopamine and stuff just kind of sits there and floats away to parts of the brain where it really shouldn't be. Now, this intense euphoria strongly reinforces the drug taking behavior or the process behavior, teaching us that the substance is incredibly important. And that's not the case. But our brains know it to be fake after a while. So we have an out of control aspect. This dopamine surge isn't consciously controlled. The brain learns an association, which is substance equals intense pleasure or relief. And that creates this huge motivation, this huge willpower to actually go and seek out that substance or process. So anyone that says addiction or addicts, alcoholics don't have any sense of willpower and they are just in addiction because they want to be, they don't know the amount of willpower that it takes to actually get their fix whenever they have no way of getting it. So, yeah, think twice. Now we go on to neuroadaptation, which is brain changes. So, with repeated exposure to our drugs or alcohol or processes, the brain tries to adapt to, well, a flood. And how does it do that? It leads to significant changes. So, it starts with tolerance, and then after tolerance, well, let's look at tolerance. So, tolerance, everyone knows that it's essentially saying, oh, I've had some, but I've had the same amount before, so it doesn't really do the same that it used to, so I need more now too to get the same effect. And the problem is, everyone's always going after that first high or that cloud nine feeling, whatever. And it's usually only achieved at certain times. And I'm not going to tell you the things that separate those things to make people get there because then it's not going to be good for anyone. Trust me. I've talked to too many people at this point. If you want to know, go listen to all the episodes and you'll find out. But um, with the tolerance, needing more and more and more means that our body is subjected to more and more stress, more and more toxins, and our bodies just can't keep up. After a certain point, they start to break down. And so this tolerance creates this weird balancing act where it's like, I need some to operate, but if I have too much, I'm going to shut down. But if I don't have enough, it's might as well be none at all, you know? So, whenever I don't have enough in my system, whenever I was in active addiction and I didn't have enough alcohol fumes running in my blood, I started to go through withdrawals. So, whenever the substance is removed, the brain is left in an adapted state or low dopamine function. And this also causes other neurotransmitters, sorry, stumbled on my own word, it causes other neurotransmitters like serotonin, glutamate, and GABA to also go all over the place, and it makes it highly unpleasant, very uncomfortable, and it can even make someone emotional, such as having anxiety, depression, insomnia, and everything else, and it really, really sucks. So, that sucky experience will lead someone to seek out a substance more because I'm sorry, but if you want to willingly feel bad, there's something wrong with you. So it says a lot about someone getting into recovery that they're going to willingly feel like absolute hell for a little bit just to get feeling better because it is literally do or die on withdrawals and such as benzodiazepines and alcohol. Those can kill you if you go cold turkey. If you're on those heavily, please seek out medical assistance. Anyways, we have sensitization. While tolerance develops the pleasurable effects, the brain circuits associated with craving and drug seeking can become more sensitive. So, that means things that make you think of using become stronger in your body's reaction to it and what that means you're going to do with it. Other words, triggers. So now, for some people, watching movies with a depiction of their DOC is enough of a trigger for someone to go, oh, I'm going to forfeit enough whatever clean time I have and go use. And then for some people, they recognize it and they see it and they're like, oh no, I need to go call my sponsor. Or some people say, oh no, I need to remove myself from the situation. And some people manage their triggers in other ways to where they don't have that. But that is everyone's journey. Everyone has their own triggers and their own ways of handling them. So don't try to police anyone on triggers because you're probably going to get their triggers wrong and their responses wrong. Anyways, we're moving on to impaired executive function. So here's this: addiction damages the prefrontal cortex, the part that does, inhibitions, prohibitions, all the things that make us like human, right? Our prefrontal cortex. So it is the part responsible for decision making, impulse control, planning, and judgment. It makes it harder to weigh long term consequences against the immediate urge to use. So whenever we're sitting there, I want to go, oh, yeah, what can I do that makes me feel good and has a long term consequence of being good too? Well, it's usually things like exercise or investing money that I can't touch and actually have anything with it, or um, I don't know, eating right so I don't actually eat ice cream for lunch, even though I really, really want it, stuff like that. So, whenever that part of my brain isn't working right, I'm not going to look at the long term. I'm going to go, ooh, what's now that I can go, easiest, quickest, and probably less expensive solution to make myself feel better in a way that is, well, essentially fake. But now we go to the out of control aspect. So, with all of these changes, they are physical. They are physical changes. The brain gets altered. So, you've seen those commercials where you have an egg and it's like, this is your brain. And then the egg is broken in a bowl and it's like, this is your brain on drugs. Well, it's kind of the same thing, right? It's a literal thing. So the resulting cravings and physical changes and the drive to avoid withdrawal and the impaired ability to make rational decisions and all of that is essentially rewiring the brain to the point where it doesn't recognize what it used to be. It it can go, I remember some of this stuff, but those connections aren't there anymore. And to rebuild them is incredibly difficult. So, whenever we're looking at a few factors that go into addiction, we have genetics and environment. So, nurture versus nature. Am I a child of addicts or alcoholics? Or was I just surrounded by addicts and alcoholics? Was I between 5 to 10 years old whenever that happened? Was I between 18 to 20? Was I whatever? So these two things, nature and nurture, can have a huge role on both people. And, well, on both people, who's the other person I'm comparing to? I guess one's nurture and one's nature. Each person can be highly affected by their environment or by their caregivers. And this is essential because a lot of the time, one or the other can interfere with the other and set someone on the right course. But the thing is, not everyone is the same, so you can't do the same thing for the same people and expect the same results. And same thing with recovery. It's the same thing with scaring people straight. It's the same thing with everything in life because everyone is different. Get used to it. So, now is addiction a choice or what is it a disease? Blah, 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 blah. Now, had I known that I would have fallen into addiction, I would have not ever picked up the first margarita whenever I was like 6 years old or so. Who knows? I don't know. Sorry about that, I guess. But the thing is, um, like, honestly, the first night getting drunk, I never would have done it. Had I known that it would have brought me a decade of turmoil, I would have said, no, that sounds terrible. But in the moment, being a teenager, it's like, yeah, that sounds that's not me. I'm a superhero. I'm Superman. I'm invincible. There's nothing going to bring me down. But boy, oh boy, oh boy, are we wrong in that regard a lot of the time. And that's the thing is that each substance has its own addictive, well, factor essentially. And you have your nature versus nurture. You have everyone that's around you, so your peer support system. And then you just have the substance that you're ingesting one way or another because either it's going to say, yeah, I want more, or say, nah, that wasn't really for me. And I really hope it's the latter for you. And I really hope something bad happens for the first time you use because it may steer you clear. Not really. I hope you just come out of it great and have a little bit more sanity and just go, that was interesting, I guess. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyways, so developing addiction is not a choice. That's the thing. It develops. It develops. It grows. It's not something that is I wake up one day and it's like, yeah, I decided I'm full blown alcoholic. I mean, I may do that if I'm deciding to take step one and admit I have a problem, but I didn't wake up and say, yeah, I give up on life. I'm just going to drink for the rest of my life because that's all I can do. Now, there's a part of me that eventually submitted to that idea after a while, but the thing is, I didn't sit there and actually say, I'm going to rely on alcohol to use as my food, my hydration, and just calories. Literally, you can run off of alcohol. If you don't believe me, look it up. It's scary and it's not fun. But again, we can look at measurable brain changes, and these changes are not things that any sane person would say, I will willingly subject my body and brain to this for pleasure. No one would, because it's your freaking brain. And so we we do submit ourselves to this. We subject ourselves to substances and processes and other things that really screw with us, but it's because we get tricked into it. We get forced into it. We get essentially strong armed into it because life is just unfair. And we don't sit there and go, how can I get rid of all my problems in the same repeated fashion for everything, forever and always, and I never have to try anything else ever again? Oh, drugs. Yeah, that's it. That's it right there. Now, for some people, they may actually do that, but it's because they're just that broken. It's because life has beat them down. It's because there is no other way out. It's that or suicide. And I'm sorry, but which one do you want? They both suck. So either you're going to demonize the person that's sticking around, or you're going to sit there and you're going to help them out so that they don't do the latter. Which one is it going to be? Make up your mind. You can't have both, but you can help. So the best way to also help is to not fall into it yourself. And it's easy to be like, oh, abstinence, don't do it. You'll never fall into it. But that's the thing, is that shit, most alcoholics and addicts, they will sit there and tell you, I wish I could do drugs and alcohol like a normal person because they're fun. That's the reason. And that's the whole point of like everyone falling into it, because it's something different. It's an experience. It is part of being human. Animals get all sorts of messed up all the time. Do they get addicted? Some of them do, yeah, on different things. But that's the thing. It is a natural process. And I'm sorry, but if we can help each other out of that, then why not do that? Animals don't help each other out of it. So people helping people out of addiction, that just goes to show how human humans can really be. So I don't know. Anyways, with that, we're coming up on 20 minutes. We don't have an interview tonight. I'm sorry. But you know that because we're at the end of the episode. So, congratulations. You made it through the end of the episode, through the end of the live stream. So, I can tell you is to be sure and check out Retrieving Sanity tomorrow around 1:30, because we're going to be speaking to Manami Yamato, and she is going to be telling us all about the importance of inner nurturing voice, and she calls it nurturing parent voice. So it's going to be super cool, because if you're dealing with like some inner family stuff and working some PTSD, inner family system, I already said that. If you're doing any kind of inner work, this is going to be some pretty good stuff. So check it out. And then on Sunday, we got Telly Tootle. And we're going to be speaking all about. You're going to have to check it out. I don't want to spoil that one. It's going to be really cool. So that one is at 4 p.m. on Sunday. So 1:30 tomorrow and then 4 p.m. on Sunday. I'll remind y'all at the end of tomorrow's episode, so don't worry. And with that, I'm tired and we're going to end. So see you next time. You have a great rest of your evening and a good start to your weekend. However that's going to look, I don't know. I just got back from dinner with the in-law and my wife, so that was awesome. Should I say in-law or should I just say father-in-law? Because it's not hmm, father-in-law, Phil. His name's not Phil, but I mean, it works, right? So, anyways, with that, bye, Shalon.